So you want to roll a monk? Well, here's what you need to know. Monks are the weeb class. Let's be so real right now. You don't want to play a monk for its novel character fantasy and unique playstyle. You want to play a monk so you can be Goku, or Naruto, or Yuji. Okay, maybe not Yuji. Yuji fucking sucks. But I'll humor you and pretend you aren't currently trying to convince your GM to implement your OP or a farming homebrew feat and play the rest of the video straight. Monks embody the pursuit of physical, mental, and spiritual perfection. They train relentlessly to unlock their full potential, manifesting in a number of abilities that extend into the realm of the supernatural. They need no weapons nor armor to defeat their foes, for their body is their weapon, and their skill is their armor. You'd think this would make them better at punching dudes than, say, a scholar who's never lifted anything heavier than a textbook, but yeah. Guess fighters really needed that W. To be fair, monks do get a higher damage die on their fists. To be fairer, being more likely to crit outpaces the increased average damage in the long run. Oh, but the -2 for making lethal attacks balances that out, you might say. Funny thing about non-lethal attacks. The only hit where it matters whether it's lethal or not is the last one. You can stab someone 17 times in the gut, and as long as they stay at 1 HP, a soft bonk on the head will send them into a peaceful slumber. Of course, all of these arguments are moot, because the real reason monks don't start expert in unarmed strikes is because they don't need to be when they can smack you twice for one action. Even if you don't take the feats that let you stun your target or throw some athletics checks into the mix, a lot of your abilities get recontextualized based on whether or not they can be flurried. They also get a quirky set of passives that allow their attacks to overcome resistances, letting them count as magic, silver, cold iron, or even adamantine. Not only is this great for you, since you aren't likely to have ways to overcome these resistances otherwise, but for your party as well, because they aren't likely to have any workarounds either. Now you'd think a class that can't wear armor would be on the squishy side, right? Well, think the fuck again. As if being one of the only classes to get legendary armor proficiency wasn't enough, monks are also the only class that gets to choose how their saving throws progress. Min-max to make yourself untouchable in one save, or give yourself an even spread to cover all your bases. Whatever you decide, the fact that it's your decision is one of my favorite parts of this class. Much like fighters, monks don't have any subclasses to choose from, meaning your feat choices are the biggest factor in determining your playstyle. To be more precise, monks place a big emphasis on stances that give you unique forms of unarmed strike as well as some kind of minor buff. The starting stances don't seem all that impressive on their own, but often lead into some devastating feats later on. Little bit of AC and jumping power, combination raise shield reactive strike. Ignore some difficult terrain, AoE frightened that doesn't go away as long as they stay next to you. Don't want to be pigeonholed into maxing dex? Mountain Stance has you covered. Yes, that is a stacking item bonus to AC in exchange for a strict dex cap, with even more AC every turn you spend thinking about rocks. On top of that, you can stomp the ground to do a mini earthquake. The whole feat chain is supposed to have this sturdy and immovable as a mountain vibe, but honestly, sumo. There are tons of other stances to choose from, even at later levels, but pretty much all of them follow a template of attacks that do a thing and attacks that do a thing plus. If you're having trouble deciding which stance to take, fear not. Monks have ways to utilize several stances at once, either by freely swapping between them or fusing two of them together. Now, let's say your anime self-insert is a sword boy rather than a fist boy. Well, Papa Paizo thought about that too. Monastic weaponry takes an assortment of melee weapons and says, you can flurry with these. You can expand the collection, learn a stance that lets you flurry shurikens, or learn another stance that lets you turn swords into big ricocheting shurikens. There's one more stance that lets you flurry with bows, with optional add-ons to ignore concealment and cover, shoot enemies' arrows back at them, or do a triple shot that can stun, cause bleed damage, and isn't a flourish action, meaning you can follow it up with another flurry of arrows. Lastly, monks are one of the few martial classes with access to focus spells. And I mean a lot of focus spells. Jesus, that's a lot of focus spells. By channeling the chi in your body, you could do stuff like empower your fist with different types of damage, shoot cones of pure energy, apply a magical sword of Damocles, or go actual Super Saiyan. There are even special stances for chi users, one that gives you reach and an AoE blast of concentrated death, and another that gives you ranged attacks that can turn into a cone or line. And if that's not enough, there are support feats for the build that let you heal after casting a chi spell, not to be confused with the chi spell that heals you, ignore resistances when using chi spells, or use one of those chi stances for free. Honestly, I could spend all day listing every neat little trick monks get. I haven't even gotten to their insane mobility and grapple synergies yet, but I think that's the biggest selling point of the monk. All these unique feeling options that support so many different playstyles and character fantasies, and none of it feels out of character for the class. I honestly can't think of any other class that better embodies Pathfinder's mission statement of character customization. You could play a monk in a dozen different campaigns and have none of them feel the same. Whether you could get enough players with consistent availability for a dozen campaigns is a different matter altogether.